The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show was originally broadcast on September 14th, 2021.
Aloha and good morning, Maui, and welcome to the Business Matters radio show, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Pamela Tumpot, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce. Today, we're going to talk about the Maui County and Mayor Victorino's Safer Outside rules effective tomorrow, September 15th. We're going to talk about federal funding opportunities and digital equity with Hawai'i strategy officer and talk with the owner of Island Art Parties. So it's going to be a fun morning. But first, we're going to start with the public health emergency rules. And I really wanted to share some of these with you this morning because tomorrow these rules go into effect. They are the new public health emergency rules for Maui County. And so tomorrow, September 15th, is the first day that we're implementing these new rules, moving into what's now known as safer outdoors. We all remember safer at home, but this is safer outdoors. While this section of the rules has many of the same elements of safer at home, the county also wanted to make it clear that outdoor activities that are not large gatherings are safer than indoor activities. So it's really important as we move into this new realm. We've seen the rising cases with the Delta variant. Lately, we've seen a little bit of reprieve, but we're not out of the woods yet. So this section encourages residents and visitors to stay at home or do more outdoor activities as much as possible and does not force any business to close. So as you might have heard, and the governor mentioned this yesterday, and it was on the news last night, the big thing is we don't want to get to a point where we're having to do complete shutdowns again. That's really crucial for our economy, for our businesses to survive. You know, they're still not out of the woods from being shut down the first time. So we're looking at trying to find ways that we can institute rules across the state, across the county, where we can pull back a little bit and find ways to, again, recognizing vaccination levels are on the rise, but we didn't hit that herd immunity we were hoping for in the summer. So we need to look at ways that we can kind of pull back and be safer during this time. So the new rules limit social gathering sizes of 5 people indoors and 10 persons outdoors. So gatherings of members of a single residential or family unit sharing the same address are not restricted. So if you've got a family of 8, and you're going, well, okay, 5 people indoors, again, if you're the same family unit, you're not restricted. But, and don't forget, social gatherings does not include businesses that have supervision, monitoring, or other enforcement protocols in place, like events overseen by a commercial event operator, or schools, daycares, or other similar institutions. Some of the big changes are, of course, what you might have been hearing in the news. It's proof of vaccination to enter certain businesses. And other states have been doing this as well. It's frequently known as what people refer to as the vaccine pass. And in many places, New York being one, they sort of look at this a little differently. They, instead of saying, hey, this is a restriction to enter, they say this is like your passport, right? This is if you're fully vaccinated and you've taken that step, this is a way that you can enter into different businesses. For restaurants, bars, food courts, and other food or social establishments, they must close no later than 10 p.m., except for drive-through. Non-liquor related takeout is available, and delivery or room service. No mingling between groups. At the bars and restaurants, they need to operate at a 50% indoor capacity as long as they ensure all customers 12 years of age and older are fully vaccinated. And the total number of recommended doses, at the total number of recommended doses, meaning, of course, the Johnson & Johnson shot was 1 dose, Pfizer and Moderna were 2 doses. So depending on what shot the person received, they want to ensure that. And at least 2 weeks since the last dose. So they're looking at 14 days after the last dose. So a completed vaccination card in the original photocopied or digital form, such as the Hawai'i Smart Health Card or similar vaccination documentation from a healthcare provider are accepted. Non-vaccinated patrons, and this is where people are asking a lot of questions. So if you're non-vaccinated, you may be served in outdoor dining spaces only, if those are available, or by takeout or drive-through. So there's a lot of things going on in this, and to find out more about the outdoor spaces and the indoor spaces and gathering sizes and all of the full rules as it might relate to your family or your business, go to mauicounty.gov, and the county really defines well what is considered for indoors and outdoors. You can find all of this information. In the past, there was, when we were talking about businesses and what was indoors or outdoors, in one of the earlier rulings, it was a little bit vague, and the county's really done a great job trying to detail more of the scenarios. One of the challenges we see, though, is, as we all know, one size doesn't fit all. And so even as we come forward with new rules at the county and they're putting these new rules in place, you're going to find nuances. We had a couple come up the other day, and one of those people will be joining us, Island Art Parties. They're a little bit different. They're not a restaurant, but but in many ways, the way they function is a little bit like that because alcohol can be served. So there's some questions about how to mitigate between situations. Another one was a retail coffee store, but that retail coffee store also serves beverages as well as over-the-counter food. They do have a little indoor dining space, and they also have a little outdoor dining space, so they're trying to get some clarification there. And if you need clarification, call the mayor's office and ask. We're trying to work on those scenarios at the Maui Chamber of Commerce as well. So if you need additional help, you can reach out to us at the Maui Chamber of Commerce. Our phone number is 244-0081. Or you can send an email to info@mauichamber.com and let us know, some of the things that you're concerned about with your business, and we'll work to see how we can help get you the information that you need. Gyms and fitness centers and other high-risk businesses must also go to 50% occupancy and ensure that all of the customers, again, 12 years of age and older, are fully vaccinated. So just like the restaurants, if they're unable to follow these rules, because many of the gyms are, fully inside, then they would need to close. Now, we saw this during the shutdown earlier. So the good news is they're not fully shut down, but they do need to be able to work around the 50% capacity for social distancing. And of course, I think it probably goes without saying, but just to reiterate, we're still doing the mask wearing. We're still encouraging people, social distancing is really important. And that hand washing has never changed. So we want to continue to do lots of hand washing, mask wearing. So it's we're at this point where some of these things have been also continuing to operate, but maybe we're not as aware, and we have to pull back a little bit. And some people have been pulling back on their own, and sometimes the pulling back was because they didn't have enough workers to actually increase their capacity beyond 50%. With some of the challenges we're having in finding available employees to come back to work. And in other cases, as people were starting to move forward, we're now having to kind of get back to that 50% sort of middle ground. That includes commercial recreational boating that can operate at 50% capacity, and ground transportation like commercial tour operators who can operate at 50% capacity of each vehicle. That includes the driver, and again, masks must be worn. But there are times where, again, things are maybe a little different. For example, we received a call, and we're checking with the county on this, where a tour operator had a 12-passenger van. They had 10 and 12-passenger vans, but if they had a 12-passenger van and then at 50% capacity, that would take it to 6, but then with the driver, it takes it to 5. But they might have a family that all lives in one household. So, we're working on some of these nuances to see if there's room for exemptions, if they meet some of the other major components elements of the rules and address the safety concerns, obviously, which is what the point of all of this is, right? It is to make sure that we're operating in as safe a way as possible where we can keep businesses open while reducing our case counts so that we can continue to remain open. So another big thing that people are concerned about, with organized sports is they're pulling back right now to say no spectators at indoor or outdoor organized sports. You can have the teams, you can have the coaches, but no spectators. And this is something that I know is difficult because as our children are playing or family members are playing, we want to go watch. But it is one of these things right now that is based on where we're seeing clusters. So again, they're looking at some of these higher risk activities. So if you are a restaurant, bar, gym, or fitness center owner or owner of another business that has been listed and you want to make sure that you are verifying your client's vaccination. So you will need to do as a business a written record describing your protocol for implementing and enforcing these rules. And you'll need to keep that on file. It must be available upon request by a county official. And so a lot of people are wondering, well, what exactly does that look like? And there weren't very specific guidelines presented. So we at the Chamber are encourage people to, create a written document. You want to have a policy that you can educate your employees on what this new policy is. You want to talk about what types of vaccine cards are acceptable, help them understand the different vaccine forms that the card can be shown in that meet the requirement of being fully vaccinated. For example, you can have graphics at your front desk or a host stand with a calendar so they can quickly see the 2-week period sort of rolling forward after the second dose ends or identify after the first dose ends for those who had Johnson & Johnson. You want to know in your protocol which employees are authorized to do these checks. And you want to make sure that you have a trained backup because you might have trained a designated employee to do this, but if they're out sick or on leave or on vacation, you need to have somebody as a backup. We're hearing from many establishments that they're going to start with a manager and make sure that we've got a manager available at the beginning of the protocol, make sure that the new plans are working right. And it's a challenge because, one, right now, businesses are struggling to find workers. We've heard many restaurants say, this is a huge challenge for us because we don't have enough workers to even serve the food on the tables. And now we've got to figure out somebody else to manage looking at these vaccine cards. And we understand this is going to be a challenge, but it is a step that is keeping us from pulling back further. And it's something that is being done on Oahu. It's being done here in Maui County. And, the governor mentioned also that they may be pulling back statewide further if we don't start seeing some changes in our numbers. So it is a work in progress. We all need to band together on this. And also continue to think about ways that we can be safer and things that we can do. We encourage businesses, if you have great ideas and want the county to understand, well, what if we do this? Or we can implement this policy that maybe help. Please let us know at the Maui Chamber of Commerce because those ideas are being shared. Or you can share them directly with the county by calling the mayor's office. They're very open to hearing suggestions on ways that we can, again, protect our employees, our residents, and our guests. So we're trying to work with members to look at messaging and scripting to kind of help them prepare their employees for this new time. Many employees on the front line we hear are getting challenging questions or rude comments as they're trying to just follow the rules. And so, it might help for businesses to create scripts for their employees so they have things that they can say, don't have to try and think of everything off the top of their head. Maybe some of the frequently asked things that have been said in the past when we had issues with mask wearing. Think about ways to do that and also think about how we can accommodate different options. So for restaurants where they have people who are unvaccinated, if they don't have outdoor seating and a place to seat them, they can offer to take an order and do takeout. So we want to look at ways that we can continue to serve our public with as many options as we can provide. And we understand in this scenario, we don't have, all of those options available to us, but it helps if each business can kind of think through what some of their options might be. And one of the things that we were thinking about with, for example, Marriott Island Art Party is, can we package some art products that people could then take home and do with maybe a video or some other sort of Zoom tutorial, which I think she had worked on before. So there are creative ways that we can work together on this. And you want to have a policy. Right now, it's our understanding there's no logging of every single vaccination card. That is not what's happening. I've also heard many businesses, and I understand it. In some ways, they feel this policy feels like they're requiring this mandate. It is a government mandate, and by the government making this choice, it sort of in many ways takes the onus off of the business owners because it's not their mandate. They're not the ones putting these rules in place. Our government is putting these rules in place to protect our hospital systems, to protect our community as they feel needs to happen based on the data that they're looking at. And the data that, they're checking each week and looking at our hospital capacity, where the case counts are going. As we bring case counts down, in the past we've seen we can open up more. So, it's an interesting time. But we want to make sure that those business owners also understand and help to convey, because many of them may not have the same views, but they can be clear, and I think the public's getting to be very clear through ongoing messaging in the media that, these choices are being made at the government level, at the mayor's level, at the governor's level, and so they're looking at the data, and whether we all agree with the choices, nobody's trying to force anybody to be vaccinated. But for those who are vaccinated, more doors are open to them under these policies right now because they feel that with the data they've seen where vaccinated people are with vaccinated people, instances drop tremendously. But vaccinated, even with unvaccinated, we're seeing case counts go up. So I don't have all the nuances on that data, but the mayor's office I know is looking at it regularly, as well as looking at what's happening within our hospital. So these are important things to talk about. We also want to, understand that on the, with this mandate, you want to also keep information on your employees' vaccination or tests. So if your employees are vaccinated, you want to keep that information on file. And for those who have chosen not to get vaccinated, you want to keep their regular testing, their weekly testing on file, so you have that. Of course, we have HIPAA laws, so you want to store these files in a place that is kept confidential, and you want to be clear on how you will allocate who has access to that information, making that a limited number of people who have access, just again to protect confidentiality. And you also want to, look at who from your staff is going to be doing the checks of the employee records. So we're encouraging people to talk about nuances about their businesses that make them unique and different, to ask questions. And today is a great day. I'm not trying to flood the mayor's line or the chamber's line, but we're here to help. So please know that if you are wondering how this is going to apply to your business, if you're looking at the guidelines, and go to that attachment A, which is more descriptive, along the way, as more and more of these protective orders come into play over time throughout this COVID process. Our elected officials and the teams are looking at, okay, how do we better describe this? We had these questions the last time. How do we address those previous questions in this order to make sure that we're not addressing those questions again after the fact? So we're always trying to make sure this is a work in progress. And one of the roles at the Chamber is to inform government. That's one of the things we've been working to do, is hear the stories from businesses and say, okay, we've read this rule and either we're not clear and they're not clear, or the rules clear, but we're wondering if there can be consideration for these types of situations. And here's the nuances of the situation. So if that is something that's concerning to you, let us know. And if you want to reach out to the mayor's office, that number is 808-270-7855. So 808-270-7855. Or you can email us at info@mauichamber.com. Share a little bit of your story, and we'll work to get answers for you. We are doing that with a number of companies right now. As I mentioned, a couple of stories. We are also hearing that a number of people are saying this is going to change our business model, just even the tracking. So some people, we understand Sam Sato's is going to look at doing some takeout. There's some other businesses who are saying, and they've publicly said this, I'm not saying anything that hasn't been promoted in the press, there's concern about how they're going to staff up these vaccine passes checking. There's some business owners who are saying, gosh, this is really tough for us to do, and we've heard one owner say, maybe we need to move our business to South Beach, Florida, where we don't have some of these issues, and we can run our business and do what we do best. But we are working on as many options as we can. I do also want to point out that with this new order, the mayor is going to review it in 30 days. And that's really important. There were other discussions, and we at the Chamber have a seat, or I specifically have a seat in a lot of different discussions, both county and statewide. And, there was talk of 60 days, and there have been talks of longer periods. We are in the shoulder period right now, where this is a time where we typically see visitor counts go down. And of course, that is true. And of course, there's some other challenges that businesses have seen with messaging, particularly the governor's message, where we've seen some cancellations and strong reactions to that message. But, this is a time where we're sort of at a lull. So it's a good time for us to take this time to focus on our community and work together to bring down these COVID numbers, so that as we start moving into the holidays, we can have a brighter holiday season. So again, if you need help, please reach out to the Chamber or the Mayor's office, and we're happy to help you work through these new mandates. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after hearing from our sponsor, Mokulele.
Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal.
Okay, we're back. This is Business Matters from the Maui Chamber of Commerce and our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines. If you're just tuning in, it's my pleasure to welcome Burt Lum. He is the State of Hawaii Strategy Officer for the Hawai'i Broadband Initiative. Burt has been involved and dedicated to digital equity and ensuring that Hawaii establishes a robust, resilient, ubiquitous connectivity to the global broadband network. He was previously the executive director of the Hawaii Open Data, a nonprofit dedicated to advancing the principles of open data and knowledge in Hawaii, including policy work and community collaborations. He has more than 30 years in Hawaii's technology and communications sector and is a frequent speaker and panelist on the topic of information and communication technology. Burt, good morning and welcome to the show. We're glad to have you back.
Hey, Pam. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure, always. So let's talk about federal funding opportunities. Broadband is so important to us all. Can you tell people what's happening in this matter, what's available, because we are eager to move forward with improved connectivity?
Well, let me start off by saying that we've actually advanced from the broadband initiative to the broadband and Digital Equity Office. So
yes.
I wanted to let your listeners know about that because, it's kind of a moving from, just an initiative to an actual office. So,
awesome.
That's, I think, a major milestone. Now, regarding federal funding, so we've been closely monitoring, all the activity that the federal government is involved in, especially since the pandemic. So when we started to convene the broadband Hui, which was March of 2020, what we were observing was the fact that the federal government really took the issue of broadband and digital equity very, very seriously, to the extent where they're coming up with actual bills that have line items for broadband and digital equity. So this started in December of 2020 when President Trump passed the Consolidated Appropriations Act. So there were some specific line items in that bill that identified broadband. And we're actually now currently working on several of them. One of them, which I just submitted for consideration, was in August, which was the NTIA Broadband Infrastructure Grant Program. And then what has happened since the Biden administration, they came out with something called the American Rescue Plan.
Right.
And within the American Rescue Plan, there are several sections, one of which is it's called the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. And so those have monies for broadband. And then there also is another category which is being administered by the U.S. Treasury. Same act, the American Rescue Plan. And this one is called the Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund. And Hawaii is a recipient of about $115 million for that particular program. And it really brings a focus on areas like remote work, distance learning, as well as telehealth. So a lot of applications that rely on broadband. So that's something that is currently ongoing. And then the next one that we're looking at is people have been following closely what's called the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act.
Yes.
And this is the one that Congresswoman Pelosi has vowed to have the passed by the end of September. So we're closely monitoring that one, and that one actually has several line items specific for broadband infrastructure. They actually call it broadband equity. There's a section on digital equity. There's another section on the topic of middle mile, and then there's another section on affordability. So again, the federal government has really put a huge emphasis on getting broadband delivered, but not only from a technical standpoint, in terms of infrastructure, but also programs around digital equity,
right,
as well as affordability. So we're again, closely monitoring all of that and looking at how we can help to bring as much of that to Hawaii as possible.
I am so impressed by the work that you are doing. And again, you've brought together a tremendous partnership group with the broadband Hui. And then from that, there's other partnerships that are emerging that are helping to deploy a lot of this work and technology. Can you talk a little bit about, Burt, the broadband Hui, who's included in that Hui? Or the types of groups included in the Hui, not specific names, but the people involved and the organizations, and then some of these partnerships that are coming out of the Hui, or that the Hui and the state are working with to expand both access and equity.
Sure. So when we started the Hui, as I mentioned, this was back in March of 2020. We've actually committed to meeting every week. So tomorrow, which we meet every Wednesday at 9:00. Tomorrow will be the 77th consecutive meeting. Yeah. And we have representation from across the the community sector. And of course, Pam, you're involved, and we have the economic development folks from like EDA, which is the Economic Development Alliance of Hawaii. We have legislators from the counties to the state, even our congressional representation usually attends the hui. But we also have education. So we have the DOE, we have the University of Hawaii, we have the community colleges, and we have a lot of nonprofits. Not to forget the folks in the health arena, because a lot of it is tied to things like telehealth.
Right.
And so we have folks from the telehealth community, nonprofits like Hawaii Kids Can. We have schools like Kamehameha Schools, who also basically have their own digital equity initiative. And then we have folks like Stacy Aldrich from the public libraries, and again, the partnerships that you've alluded to. What we have tried to do is provide a clearinghouse and a forum for discussion. People bring up what are some of the needs. The people that are on the call oftentimes make the connections and try to see if there are resources that could be brought to the table. And I'll call out a couple of examples. One of which is the folks in the telehealth community. This is over at UH and the PBTRC, which is the Pacific Basin Telehealth Resource Center, as well as the School of Medicine. They have something called a Telehealth 101, and they hooked up with Stacy over at the libraries and are now actually doing Telehealth 101, in the library. So the library has stepped up to be a great location for delivery of some of these services. And then we have a fellow, Ka'ala Souza, who's doing a lot of digital literacy as well as digital literacy assessments. And he's also doing a lot of that in the library. So he's teaming up with the telehealth community. And then in addition to that, they've been going to classes, and some people that perhaps are interested in digital literacy, but they don't even have a computer at home. We've teamed up with Hawaiian Hope. Hawaiian Hope is a nonprofit that refurbishes computers, and we are able to get a computer into the hands of folks that don't have a computer. So, that's an example of a great partnership that's just kind of evolving out of just the fact that we're meeting and getting together and trying to pull resources to address the needs in the community. Another example is, I started something called the Community Network, and our first community network actually was pre-pandemic. It was up in Puhonua, Waimanalo. And this is basically getting a community that was, for the most part, sort of almost disenfranchised. They were out, they were previously homeless. They were able to get some land up in Waimanalo, and we were able to connect them up with a network that provided wireless connectivity to the families that were, in the foothills of the Ko'olau Mountains, and that was an example of something we call community networks. And we wanted to do that as an example, and also try to extend that model to other locations. And one that was recently set up is over at Pu'uhonua o Waianae. And what we were able to do is partnered up with Kamehameha Schools and the Internet Society and the Weinberg Foundation, and we were able to secure monies that were able to be applied toward getting fiber from the main highway over to the parcel, and that way we could now deliver wireless service to the community, in Puhonua Waianae. And right now, where it is that the fiber has been run, the hardware is delivered, and now it's just a matter of getting the hardware set up and connecting. They're actually in the process of building some units there. So, all of this is kind of work in progress, and it's just another example of, people pulling together and making some of these projects actually come to reality.
You know, it really is exciting, and I'm so glad that you shared multiple examples, because it's when you start getting groups together and we start talking about local community needs, and then, you know, what are some of the challenges that our people are facing. And we've seen so many ideas bubble up and then partnerships form as a result of this. And as some groups start making headway in one direction, others go, well, wow, we could kind of leverage or tweak that model and do something else here. For the listeners, I do want to let you know the program that Burt mentioned that Ka'ala Souza is working on with the digital literacy and the access to computer equipment. The Maui Chamber of Commerce within our members, but of course we would be happy, you know, island-wide to take any computer donations that you might have that people could use to access the computer for telehealth, for digital learning. That's where the computers are going, to the people who are in these one-on-one classes on telehealth or the digital literacy classes. We will take those here on island so that we can arrange with Ka'ala to get those to the Hawaiian Hope program that is refurbishing them. So if you have computers that you would like to donate, we're going to have specific days where they could be dropped off, but you can work with our team at the Maui Chamber of Commerce. We're just doing this to help. We're not taking any money, or we're not being paid for this. It's just we're collecting this in the hopes of helping this great network. And so you can contact us at 244-0081 or send an email to info@mauichamber.com and just say, hey, I have some computing equipment. Burt, I know there was some discussion at one of the Broadband Hui meetings about hotspots, and somebody had donated a hotspot from Maui that didn't work, I think, on Molokai. Are we collecting hotspots as well if you have an old hotspot?
Well, the hotspots are usually new because it's hard to, refurbish a hotspot.
Okay.
And the programs that are really pushing out the hotspots are the DOE and public libraries.
Okay.
They both were able to get some funds through the federal government. It's called something like the Emergency Connectivity Fund. And they are able to acquire, iPads as well as hotspots, and they have been, working with parents and students to get those distributed. So that's probably the best avenue. And then there was a presentation in the last Broadband Hui from a nonprofit called Connected Nation, and Connected Nation is working with AT&T, and they're also looking at distributing hotspots.
Okay.
And they were on the call to solicit any partners that could identify high-risk youth that might be in need of this kind of equipment to get connected. So, again, the idea is there's an organization like the DOE or Connected Nations or the libraries, and then it's a matter of trying to connect with the community and finding out, okay, so who can help identify these communities of need, and then can there be a more directed deployment of equipment to those communities and individuals.
Yeah, very good point. And so I know there's a lot of community groups. That reminds me, though, of a group that I can talk to and share that information with, which is the Nonprofit Directors Group here on Maui. So I will make sure that you've given me a new thought on that, and we'll share that information. And again, for those listening, if you know of youth that could really use this kind of help, let us know. This is what this show is about, is helping to make those kinds of connections. And,
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean
Pam. I mean, there's. I wanted to also add that, if you connect with any folks and you want to bring them into the Hui, I mean, you're more than welcome to. The last thing I might want to share with you is that there's a week coming up in October. It's called the Digital Inclusion Week, and this is from October 4th through the 8th. So we'll be talking about that in the next Broadband Hui call, and what we're trying to do is identify various activities that are going on across the state that involve digital inclusion, which could be anything from, digital literacy to adoption to affordability to, getting hardware distributed, whatever suits your fancy. We're just trying to bring attention to the whole topic of digital literacy, digital inclusion, and digital equity.
That's really important, and I'm glad to know that, and I'm sure I was going to learn it tomorrow, but I got a heads up. Thank you. Very excited about that. Burt, we're actually out of time, but I'd like you to take a quick minute to just, because this is so important, and it's been written into the federal bills, right? It's recognizing that it's important to have digital equity. Can you take a quick moment and talk about what digital equity means and how we start to achieve it beyond some of the things that we've just spoken about?
Well, so what I look at digital equity as being is kind of the democratization of technology, and how do we create the environment so that all people in Hawaii benefit from digital technologies. So digital equity is really all about not only, getting access, but how do you know how to best use the technology that you now have access to? That could be, best ways to use the internet, best ways to use your computer. There's, the need for this digital literacy and computer literacy, and you need, you also need people to help to do digital navigating, because it takes a little bit of, understanding and learning to really embrace all of this. There's the issues around affordability and adoption. There's, the whole idea of, okay, so once you've got it, and maybe you've gone through a digital literacy class, how do you stay on top of things? So, we want to make sure that there's some, after the event, let's say after you've received your hardware, is there a place that you can call for technical support? Are there additional classes that go beyond, the introductory level? So how do we do this? And we aim to do this for Keiki to Kupuna, right? So it's a pretty broad spectrum of support services to enable all the residents of Hawaii to leverage, this technology, and that's the democratization of the technology, and what we aim to do. And again, I'm speaking from my humble office in DBED, but we depend heavily on everybody that's out there, from folks like you, Pam, and nonprofits, and people on the ground that are working on the front lines of with their communities. We cannot do this as government by ourselves, because to be perfectly honest, I'm just one person. Right. And the only way we can achieve, I think, the goals that we've set for ourselves, in our digital equity declaration, is that we need everybody to get on the same page and work together to enable the not only the understanding, the learning, and the experience, but to best use this technology, not only for the sake of the individual need, but for the sake of Hawaii's competitiveness, in the 21st century, because we're pretty isolated, and if it's not for the connections to the rest of the world via the Trans-Pacific submarine fiber cables and things like that, we would not be able to compete with the global economy. So how do we get everybody familiar with the technology and capable of actually using it to benefit their livelihoods? And that's why we call it broadband for all. All stands for access, literacy, and livelihood. And that's our aim. It's audacious, but it involves everybody.
It does. Well, Burt, you point out nobody can do great things alone, but I want everybody to know, and I know you can hear it in his voice and Burt is one dynamic individual who is helping to create scenarios where amazing things are emerging. I'm sure you can hear the passion in his voice. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We've loved having you on again, and look forward to having you come back again soon to give us updates.
Sounds good, Pam. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Oh, we appreciate you, Burt. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, you too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Aloha. Okay, well, we are now going to introduce Mary Albeitz. She is the owner of Island Art Party, and it is the creation of a wonderful place to have fun and let the artist inside of you come out. She is, as a recently new owner, along with her husband Gary, they continue the tradition and fun of art and combining that with the community. It was a business that they bought into a while back. I'll let Mary tell us a little bit about it. But aloha, Mary, and good morning. How are you? Mary, are you there?
I am. Sorry, I just it kind of cut out, so I didn't.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad to have you on. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, for those who, I'm going to have you tell everybody a little bit about Island Art Party in case they haven't come, and then I'd love to hear how the parties are going.
Basically, we take you step by step through the painting of the day, and providing the framework for your own creativity and style to come out. And we love seeing people's different interpretations of the instructions and the variations. That's what makes it so much fun. And we just are all about people having fun with it.
If you've never done this, my family and I, and when I have friends that come into town, or when my daughter comes home from living, her breaks on the mainland from work, she comes home, and we always go to island art parties because it's just such a great thing. And I love that as the instructors teach you how to paint, and they give you instructions, so everybody comes out with something much better than we all go, wow, I could have never done this at home, or if left to myself, this would really be horrible. And you come out with something beautiful. But I love always, like you say, the individuality, and of course the instructors encourage that. They give us the tools, but they let everybody put their own spin on it, which is so exciting. So when it's all done and you put all the paintings together and take a picture, they all look so different and unique.
Yes, we love that part of it.
I mean, it's really just amazing. So now, Mary, remind us, how long have you been doing this?
We're almost 3 years now. Great. At the end of this year, it'll be 3 years.
Wow.
I know. I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah.
And then it was open for 4 years before that.
Okay. And what I'm noticing as I go and I look on your website, is you've always got new and changing pieces of art. So there's different designs that people can do. So even if you've done it before, you can find many new things every time you look.
Right. Try to do at least 1 to 2 new paintings per month. And then we've also added, in addition to the surfboards and turtle shapes, we've added the shape of Maui and a whale-tail shape. So we've had to create new paintings shapes too. So, always something new.
Yeah, I just saw that literally about a week ago, the whale tail and the Maui, and I was like, oh my gosh. What did I do? I did the surfboard. I was going to say I haven't even done the turtle yet, but it was fun to see the new whale tail shape and the Maui. And you've also got great things for kids as well.
Yeah, so we have family class on Sundays at 2 p.m. That's for 8 and above. And then we also have an afternoon class on Wednesdays. It's been really helpful for people who don't want to drive at night. And so we haven't advertised it as for families, but we do allow youth to join in on that one.
And what time is that on Wednesday?
That one's at 2
At 2 p.m., okay. So 2 p.m. on Wednesday and Sundays at 2 p.m. as well. 8 and above. And are there any special offers that you have going on the classes now?
Yes, so right now, since it's getting to be that time before Thanksgiving, we're doing a food drive. You bring in a canned food item, and you get in for $29.50.
Wow.
Yeah, and then also we're going back to our COVID private party pricing, which is $45 per person, including tax and tip, and minimum of 10 people. So that's a minimum of $450, which is almost a $200 savings off our regular pricing for private parties.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, and then we also have, speaking of the children, we have, with the holidays coming up, we have a special pumpkin painting party coming up on the 30th.
Oh,
And that's you bring your own pumpkin, and we provide the spooky mood and paint supplies.
Oh, how fun is that? Okay, so
for $10. Yeah.
$10 on the 30th. What time?
11 and 12. We'll have two seatings.
Okay, 11 a.m. and 12.
Yes.
Okay, and 12 p.m. Okay, so on the what day is the 30th, Mary? Is that a weekend? Oops, Mary, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear you. Mary, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. I for some reason it cut out over here. So on the 30th, it's $10, 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. Is that, what day of the week is that?
That's Saturday.
Oh, good. Okay, I was just wanted to be clear for people listening. So I was thinking, how am I going to get there the weekday? No, it's not a Saturday. Just wanted to confirm.
and then Sunday it's of course our family class, and so we're having a special dress and costume and get $5 off your entry, and prizes awarded to the top 3 costumes.
Great. $5 off and a shot at prizes.
Yeah.
Who doesn't
and of course,
love that?
Candy, popcorn, Halloween music, and painting a spooky pumpkin picture.
Oh, too fun. You guys are so awesome. So tell everybody where you're at in case they haven't visited you before, and how can people see your website and reach you?
Yeah, so we're at 1279 South Kihei Road. That's in the Azeka Shopping Center in Kihei.
Awesome. And what's your website?
It is www.islandartparty.com.
Fantastic. Well, I just want to say that it is really a fun adventure. If you've never been to Island Art Parties, you're going to have such a great time. You can go with family, you can go with friends, you can go if you're by yourself and have an afternoon where you just want to, or evening, where you want to just relax, do something fun. I promise you, whatever you come out with is going to be something that you will just surprise yourself with. and I know other people who are artists, and of course, they started it as an artist, and they come in and we all go, whoa, which is great because it's like, wow, that's what we aspire to do. Or, and not everybody. I have somebody who comes and goes, this is my level. I'm just happy doing this, but I really enjoy this. I don't need to take it to another level. But it's always fun. There's always great popcorn there and cocktails. So thank you, Mary, for joining us. We've loved having you on today. It's been a pleasure. And unfortunately, as always, folks, this goes so quick. But we've loved learning about the Broadband Hui, Island Art Parties, and the new order that came down on our Safer Outside. Thank you for joining us for Business Matters, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm Pamela Timpot, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, wishing you blessings and best wishes for a beautiful Maui day. Aloha.